Welcome into OutKick the show. I'm your fearless leader, back from the West Coast. Amazing time out in LA. I will be with you until Tuesday when I'm headed down to Florida with my family for Thanksgiving. I hope all of you are having a fantastic week. Taping a little bit early. We just did the fade. I've got Martha McCollum on Fox News after Clay and Buck, so that is a little bit of a roadmap for why we are taping. But in the event that crazy news comes out, it is a little bit after 11 a.m. on the East Coast as we are taping right now. PrizePicks, best way to get in on all the sports action over 30 states, including California, where I just was, Florida, where I will be in a couple of days, Georgia, and Texas. Only real money daily fantasy platform, injury insurance policy out there so your lineups can stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half, doesn't come back, you can still get hooked up. Make your picks in under a minute. I've got picks for you rolling into the weekend right now. You are going to hopefully be able to join me in hitting on a 10-1. The picks. PrizePicks giving you a free square this weekend. Tyreek Hill, more than 1/2 receiving yards. That is a free play. Cannot lose. Tyreek Hill, more than 1/2 of receiving yards. Here are the rest of my picks this weekend. Jahmyr Gibbs, more than 70.5 rushing yards. I have got Drake May, less than 221.5 passing yards. And Baker Mayfield, he gets Mike Evans back, more than 235.5 passing yards. That is Baker Mayfield more on passing yards, Drake May less on passing yards, Gibbs more, and the free square with Tyreek Hill. If we hit on all four of those, we are going to have a 10-1 payout. So it should be really good and a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to roll through all of that with you over the weekend. If you are a football fan, and you guys know I'm a monster football fan, this is about as good as it gets, because we're going to have, coming up next week, all of the Thursday Thanksgiving action. We're going to have all the huge college football playoff action, which I'm going to break down for you here in just a moment. A lot of different moving parts there. But I wanted to start with an amazing game. And I hope you guys were watching it last night like I was. I was sitting around watching it with the Travis boys. What an awesome snow game Thursday night we got in Cleveland. I don't know about you, but where I am, it hasn't been remotely cold so far. So it's barely been what I would consider cold day weather, where when I walk out to get the newspaper, old man style, I don't even have to put on a coat or even think about it. I can run outside in my shorts. It hasn't even been cold in the morning yet where I am in Nashville. So I just didn't even see the fact that we were going to have an effective blizzard in the second half last night. It felt like a start to fall and the winter that I haven't experienced so far. It was awesome. Congratulations, Jameis Winston. A lot of fun to watch him play. How about Myles Garrett? Unblockable, essentially, for the Browns as well. How about a shout-out to Cleveland area sports fans? Your team is 2-8. They stink. You got Deshaun Watson, who's been a disaster. You've got the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to town when you know they would love to buy up as many tickets as they possibly could. Weather is going to be rough. Actual blizzard hits. And Cleveland sports fans still showed up. A lot of you got drunk and took your shirts off, which I appreciate. By the way, prefer when it's women who get drunk and take their shirts off, but there's a lot of fat dudes who did it instead. I just thought, amazing scene, phenomenal game. Props to Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, who I thought did a good job calling this game. A lot of times, Thursday night football can be a bit of a letdown. Teams don't seem psyched and jazzed to play. Not last night. It was phenomenal. We hit the over. Hope you were with me on playing the over. Did not look very smart in the first half, the over. But in the second half, we surged past the number. And so we got a dub already that we have cashed. I wanted to talk about the college football playoff picture in general, because I tweeted about it some on Tuesday when the playoff rankings came down, but I wasn't doing the show because I was out in LA. I wasn't doing the OutKick show. So let me tell you this. I think the College Football Playoff Committee is completely ignoring strength of schedule. And you may have seen SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey share the data, but I talked about this on the Monday edition of OutKick the Show, and I wrote all about it in the Starting 11, which goes up every Sunday. I said, we have to consider strength of schedule. And that's why I had Texas as number 5 overall in my SEC rankings, because I think Georgia playing against 5 top 25 teams and going 3-2 is more impressive than Texas not playing only 1 top 25 team and losing to them. So even though Georgia's 8-2 and Texas is 9-1, I've got Georgia 1, Tennessee 2, Alabama 3, Ole Miss 4. I've got Texas at 5 because Texas at 9-1 doesn't have as impressive of a record to me or a resume as 8-2 Georgia, 8-2 Alabama, 8-2 Tennessee, 8-2 Ole Miss. So to me, Georgia's down at 5. But, and this is key, and I'm going to do it live with you on the air because I think a lot of people who are college football fans don't think about how hard it is for the favorites to all win. So I am going in right now into a sports gambling app. I'm not being paid for this, so I'm not going to tell you what app, but I have a bunch of sports gambling apps on my phone, and I am going to go in live with you, and I'm simply going to pick all of the favorites to win that are currently in the college football playoff, and I'll do it with you as I run through. Okay, Ole Miss is on the road against Florida. Right now, Ole Miss out to an 11.5 point favorite, all right? I'm going to pick Ole Miss on the money line to win. Ohio State. I'm going to leave that one alone because I think both those teams are going to be in, but Ohio State's a 10.5 point favorite. I'll leave that alone for right now. Again, these are games that feature teams that are the favorite, but I'm not putting in like UMass against Georgia. I'm talking about like power conference matchups, all right? Texas is a 20.5 point favorite over Kentucky, so I'm going to pick Texas. Penn State, 11.5 point favorite over Minnesota. I'm going to take Penn State on the money line. Again, all I am doing is picking money line favorites right now of teams that are in the playoff, all right? Notre Dame is playing against Army. I'm going to pick Notre Dame on the money line. And even though they're not in the playoff, well, let's first go Alabama against Oklahoma. I'm going to pick Alabama on the money line, all right? That is a 5-leg parlay. I am going to make my money, that is basically, I'm going to make more than I bet. That is an underdog parlay. Those teams, that means it is more likely than not that one of Alabama, Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, or Ole Miss will lose. I think that surprises people. Those teams all, it is more likely than not that one of those teams will lose. So as we break all that down, I think that is pretty significant. And by the way, if I add in Texas A&M to win as well, then it goes to nearly a 3-1 payout on just the money line parlay. Okay? So again, it's likely that this thing is going to completely resolve itself, but that 6-leg parlay on A&M, Alabama, Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, and Ole Miss would pay out at nearly 3-1. Again, I just think it's significant. You are likely to get one of those teams, maybe two of those teams, to lose, and everything's going to change in the college football playoff analysis. So I think you just have to kind of break down and anticipate how all of that is going to shake out. Okay. Now, several other things that I want to talk about, but I want to start with this on OutKick. These are not our numbers. I want to say thank you to all of our OutKick staff. I want to say thank you to all of you that have been consuming our OutKick content. Headline. This is our headline. OutKick delivers massive growth month over month and year over year in October of 2024. This is our headline, but these numbers all come from ComScore. If you're not familiar, ComScore is basically the independent arbiter of website traffic. That is, ComScore is out there. They analyze everything. They're what everybody cites. They're like Nielsen. They're basically the ratings data for websites. All right, so this is ComScore numbers, not OutKick numbers. Our numbers internally are better than these. I told you that October was phenomenal and that November is on track to be even better. But according to ComScore, we had 8.6 million unique visitors on the OutKick site in October of 2024. That's pretty good. 8.6 million is a big number. Up 61% compared to the number that we had in September, and up 44% over last year. Our total views up 32% versus last month, 30% year over year, and just massive. I don't believe anybody out there has the growth rate that OutKick does that is a site of our size. It's important because there are lots of individual sites out there that are very small, startups. They can grow fast year to year. We've got, whatever it is, 13 years of data now on the site. I don't believe there's any website in America of our size growing faster than OutKick is right now. I shared this on social media. You can go read it yourself. Again, this is based on the ComScore data, and I can tell you that November is tracking to be potentially the biggest and best month in the history of OutKick. And I want to say thanks to all of you for helping to make us such an absolute behemoth when it comes to these overall numbers. Couple of other things. I want to give credit. It took too long, 16 days, but Dave McCormick has officially been announced thanks to the concession of Bob Casey, the former senator from Pennsylvania. Dave McCormick has won and flipped the Senate seat in the state of Pennsylvania. This means that I believe all of the statewide races have now been called. Republicans are going to have a 53 to 47 majority in the Senate, and Dave McCormick has won the Pennsylvania Senate seat. In addition to Donald Trump winning the state of Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick has won the state of Pennsylvania. Now, another thing I was right about, your boy's stringing a lot of dubs. I campaigned with Dave McCormick at the Ohio State-Penn State game and the surrounding Friday, Saturday. I told you after that game, you can go back and listen, put out tweets about it. I said I felt really good about Trump and McCormick in Pennsylvania because there was virtually no Kamala signage anywhere at that huge Ohio State-Penn State game. And at our tailgate, there wasn't even anybody coming by saying anything negative. I've been to a lot of tailgates over the years. Very common for fan bases to go back and forth at each other, for somebody to walk by and yell. We had a lot of Ohio State and Penn State fans at the tailgate, and nobody from Bob Casey's campaign or from the Kamala campaign having any kind of impact at all. No Kamala flags, no Kamala hats, no Kamala Gear. I said Trump's going to win Pennsylvania and McCormick's going to win Pennsylvania. I was right. Huge wins for the Republican Party, 53 Senate seats, and that now is off and running. So congratulations, Dave McCormick. Bob Casey officially conceded. It took him way too long, 16 days, in fact, for that to occur. But that in and of itself is newsworthy as it pertains to the overall storyline. Now, of the election, statewide races all called, I believe, as we break down there. Couple of other things that are out there worthy of discussion. Cabinet picks. I don't know that I've reacted to this. Congratulations to Pete Hegseth. I think he's going to be defense secretary. Many of you will know that on election night, 16 days ago, Pete Hegseth hosted Tommy Lahren and I from OutKick, as well as Morgan Ortegas, were live from Kid Rock's bar for nearly 5 hours that night on Broadway in Nashville. We stayed and watched the outcome of the election. I was with Pete. I think Pete is going to be a great defense secretary. Not surprisingly, there are lots of attacks that happen when you get named as the cabinet nominee. Everybody wants to try to come at you. Hegseth is walking around on Capitol Hill meeting with all the senators right now. I think he's going to get confirmed, and I think he's going to do a great job as defense secretary. Maybe I'll dive into those details more as it comes later. But just FYI, that is out there. By the way, I meant to mention this. I've not texted the team yet, but Adam, can you grab last night's hit from me on Jussie Smollett, on Jesse Waters on Fox News? Happened around, I think, 8:40 Eastern, 7:40 Central Time. I landed from L.A., came back home, did television there. But I wanted to mention Jussie Smollett. His conviction has been tossed because they said that he had already basically paid his penance and he couldn't be charged anew. Not that he didn't make up a fake race crime, and not that he didn't create a situation that was completely a lie, but just that he couldn't be prosecuted twice because he'd already been prosecuted. His sweetheart deal that he got done with Kim Fox stays. But I do think it's important that the fake hate crime, definitely the lies were all true. Some people are treating this as some sort of vindication for Jussie Smollett. He actually was protected by the DA there, Kim Fox, and as a result, there were not enough consequences, in my opinion, brought to bear against him. But that is what happened there and what is going on in general. I want to give credit to Congresswoman Nancy Mace. I can't believe this is a thing, but she's had to be fighting to make women's bathrooms only used by women on Capitol Hill. That appears that it's going to be happening. I want to give credit to Pam Bondi, who is the former Florida Attorney General. She is the new nominee above Donald Trump to be the next Attorney General of the United States. I believe she will get confirmed, and she will be the choice going forward. A couple of other things you may have seen me talking about this with Kelly Stewart. I thought it was a interesting sort of thing that is circulating right now that I thought I would leave you with as we roll into the weekend. Salaries needed to be financially successful. This was the poll that was conducted, survey of 2,300 U.S. people by Morning Consult Boomers. That is those born between 1946 and 1964, thought basically you needed to make $100,000 to be considered financially successful. Now, partly this is going to be a function of when you worked, right? Like most boomers are moving into retirement age. The youngest boomer would be, 60? I think the math is right on that. The youngest boomer would be 60. Gen X, I am a Gen X member. $212,000 is what you need to make to be considered financially successful. Millennials, 181 million. If you're curious, by the way, Gen X, 65 to 80. Millennials, 81 to 96. So my sister is a millennial. I am one of the youngest members of Gen X. And then Gen Z, by the way, millennials, 181 million. So Gen X, millennials, not that much different overall in what it takes to be financially successful. And by the way, your age can definitely factor in to what it's considered to take to be financially successful, right? Because if you were born in 1996, you would be right now, and again, math live is always challenging, 28 years old, I think. If you were born in 1996, what you think it takes to be considered financially successful might be a little bit different because you're 28. You might not have kids yet. Maybe you're just starting to live in a home. Might be a little bit different than Gen X, where you have kids that are moving towards college age like I do. And so you have mortgages. Anyway, there should be some variation based on age in what you consider to be necessary to be financially successful. So Gen X and millennials pretty similar, 212K, 181K. This stood out to me and I thought was crazy. Gen Z born 1997 to 2012. So I have, let me think, I have two, I can't even keep track. What do I have? I've got a 16-year-old and I've got a 14-year-old. So I have got two Gen Zs, right? Is that right? Adam, do the math for me here. I can't keep up. I got one born in 2008, one born in 2010. That's right, two young-ish members of Gen Z. What does Gen Z think you need to make to be considered financially successful? $588,000. Now, I don't know if this is just the kids are so young, they don't have any conception of what the percentage of people that actually make $588,000 is. But you're talking about the oldest Gen Z member is now 27 years old. That's old enough to have some measure of financial accuracy. Is this what social media has done? I mean, honest question. Somebody said Gen X which voted for Trump overwhelmingly, is the best generation because we were old enough to grow up without the internet, but we know how to use the internet. And that's a deadly combination. That's interesting to me. I think there's some validity there. Like we were running around outside. We grew up in the 80s, the 90s, the oldest and youngest of Gen X. How in the world can you be in a position where you think you need to make $588,000 to be considered successful? I think this is a social media era. I think people have no idea because of Instagram what it actually takes to make that kind of salary or how rare it is. And people, including their friends, are selling such artificial versions of their life. They're going on vacations. They are trying to look like they drive cars they can't afford, live in apartments and condos they can't afford. This is pretty wild. So maybe it changes as you get older and become more realistic, but Gen X and millennials, pretty similar. Baby boomers not that far off for what it takes to be financially successful. And then you get to Gen Z and they're like, you got to make $588K to be considered financially successful. Positive way to look at this would be aspiration of Gen Z is off the chart and they are ambitious and they are going to be trying to achieve levels of success that others have not. Shoot for the stars, and if you make it to the moon, you'll be happy-ish. But man, that is I give credit. I'm not begrudging anything. I'm a capitalist. I want everybody to make money. But if that is your standard for financial success, then basically 99.9% of the people around you are failures when it comes to finance. All right, I love all of you. Gambling picks are up for college football, 15 of them. NFL six-pack is out. We already won last night on the over. Those are up at OutKick. PrizePicks pick one more time. Tyreek Hill more than 1.5 receiving yard. That is a guaranteed winner that they are giving us at PrizePicks. Then Gibbs more than 70.5 rushing yards. Drake May less than 221.5 passing yards. Baker Mayfield more than 235.5 passing yards. We hit on that. That is a 10-1. PrizePicks.com, $50 when you use code OutKick. I love all of you. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. I am Clay Travis. This has been OutKick the Show. Be back with all of you Monday. And if by chance you're running off for your Thanksgiving holiday and you won't be watching us, thank you for making October the greatest month in OutKick history. And as always, DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. I'll see you guys on Monday. I'll be on Fox News with Martha a little bit later. Let me see. I just got a text message. I'll be on with Sean Hannity as well. All of that coming down the pike still to come. Hope you guys have a great time watching football like I will. And thanks for all your support. See you guys Monday.